The Earth Federation's spacecraft sliced through the endless darkness of space, steadily approaching the planet Zerathia. Elias Thorne, a 38-year-old diplomat with dark brown hair and sharp, deep blue eyes, stood by the observation window, his fingers absent-mindedly brushing a small necklace, a keepsake from his lost partner. Before him, Zerathia emerged like a wild gem. Vast red sand deserts stretched endlessly, dotted with volcanic ranges spewing vibrant lava. The sky, thick with dust and ash, shimmered as the light from twin suns pierced through, casting breathtaking streaks of orange, purple, and fiery red. As the ship touched down at a rare oasis amidst the desert, Elias stepped out. The air was heavy with the sharp scent of sulfur, mingling with the sweet fragrance of glowing flowers that sparkled in the shadows, like stars in the harsh landscape. He wore a sleek black diplomatic suit, its hidden lightweight armor fitting snugly against his toned frame, honed by years of rigorous training. A Zerathian delegation awaited, led by High Counselor Vexa, a commanding female leader with a piercing gaze and intricate tattoos of authority etched across her arms. Beside Vexa stood a striking figure, Lyra, a young Zerathian warrior. Her pale purple skin shimmered under the sunlight, her silver hair woven into neat braids for battle, and her golden eyes gleamed like precious gems. She wore armor crafted from native creature hide, both fierce and elegant, accentuating her tall, lean, yet powerful build. Elias felt a brief jolt at her untamed beauty, but quickly regained his professional composure. Vexa spoke, her voice deep and authoritative. "Welcome to Zerathia, Ambassador Thorne. I am High Counselor Vexa, and this is Lyra, who will guide you during your visit." Elias nodded, responding calmly. "It's an honor, High Counselor Vexa. I look forward to forging a lasting alliance between Earth and Zerathia." Lyra stepped forward, her golden eyes meeting his directly, her voice soft but brimming with confidence. "Ambassador Thorne, I'll show you our lands. Zerathia is more than fire and stone. There's much worth discovering." Elias offered a faint smile, sensing the pride in her words. "I've glimpsed its beauty from above. I'm certain there's more to uncover." Together, they walked away from the oasis, venturing into the crimson desert. Under the ethereal glow of the twin suns, the silhouettes of Elias and Lyra blended into Zerathia's landscape. A human diplomat and an alien warrior, two distant worlds beginning to connect, setting the stage for an unexpected journey. Elias stood at the edge of towering red dune, his blue eyes squinting against the blinding light of the twin suns. Zerathia unfolded before him like a wild masterpiece, both alluring and menacing. Endless red deserts stretched to the horizon, their towering dunes curving like ocean waves, but each gust of wind carried sharp sand grains, capable of cutting unprotected skin. Heat radiated from the ground, and the acrid smell of sulfur from distant volcanoes, where molten lava flowed like the planet's lifeblood, filled the air. Elias marveled at how such a harsh world could sustain such resilient life. Lyra, the Zerathian warrior with shimmering pale purple skin and tightly braided silver hair, walked beside Elias Thorne. Her golden eyes scanned the landscape with quiet pride, as if every grain of sand held a story of her ancestors. She wore battle armor crafted from native creature hide, light yet durable, adorned with hand-carved patterns symbolizing honor and valor. Elias noticed her every movement carried reverence for her homeland, from the way she stepped carefully to avoid crushing small plants to the subtle bow of her head as they passed a stone etched with ancient symbols. "Zerathia doesn't forgive carelessness," Lyra said, her voice low but sharp. "The sand can bury you in minutes, and the creatures beneath," she pointed to a crack in the ground where a small, spiky beast scurried past. "They strike without hesitation. But if you listen, the planet will teach you how to survive." Elias nodded, his fingers brushing the necklace that held memories of his lost partner. He had seen many worlds, but Zerathia was unique, a place where beauty and danger intertwined. They moved on, reaching a rare oasis where strange plants thrived on the edge of life and death. Trees with leaves that gleamed like liquid metal reflected light in dazzling streaks, but their roots secreted poison if touched. Flowers glowed faintly in the shade, casting an eerie blue light, though Lyra warned their sweet scent could induce sleep if inhaled too long. Elias, ever the explorer, was captivated by the oasis's vibrant life, yet he sensed its fragility. Lyra paused before a glowing flower, her fingertips grazing it as she whispered in the Zarathian tongue. "We believe every creature, every plant, carries our ancestors' spirits," she explained. "Touching them without permission is an offense." Elias took note, realizing Zarathian culture wasn't just about combat but a deep bond with the land, a reverence he, as an Earth human, struggled to fully grasp. They approached the fire abyss, a massive chasm where molten lava churned below, its heat warping the air. Stone bridges spanned the gap, carved with ancient symbols, and Lyra explained these were where her ancestors performed rituals to soothe the planet's angry heart. Elias's pulse quickened, not just from the danger, but from the place's grandeur. He wanted to ask more, but Lyra signaled for silence, her golden eyes focused as they crossed the bridge, each step feeling like a prayer. Finally, they reached the Temple of Eternal Flame, an ancient structure carved into a mountainside. Its black stone walls gleamed, covered in intricate reliefs depicting Zarathian feats and rituals. A central flame burned steadily, casting a soft glow, and the air was thick with the scent of incense mingled with sulfur. Elias felt as if he'd entered a sacred realm where time stood still. Lyra bowed to the flame, murmuring a greeting, and Elias mimicked her, unsure if he was doing it right. Lyra led him deeper into the temple, her steps light to preserve the silence. She pointed to the reliefs, her voice low but proud. Each carving tells a story. Here, our ancestors fought beasts in the fire abyss. There, they prayed for rain to save an oasis. Elias listened intently, drawn to the depth of Zarathian culture. He realized everything, sand, stone, flame, held spiritual meaning to them. Touching anything without permission was a violation, a warning Lyra had stressed along the way. They stopped before a large relief, depicting two Zarathian warriors facing each other, hands resting on a fiery altar, the flames seeming to bind them. The carving was exquisitely detailed, every fold of cloth and strand of hair vivid, as if the ancestors' spirits lingered. Elias felt an odd pull, as if the relief were calling to him. "What does it mean?" he asked, his voice low, blue eyes fixed on the artwork. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze wary, sensing the curiosity in his tone. "This is the bonding ritual, an ancient ceremony to unite two souls, between warriors, tribes, or those with great purpose. It demands absolute trust and deep connection. No one has performed it for centuries, but remains a sacred symbol of unity." She paused, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "Touching this relief without permission dishonors our ancestors, Elias. Don't let your curiosity cause trouble." Elias nodded, but the explorer's heart within him stirred. He had visited dozens of planets, faced alien cultures, and always sought to touch their essence. This relief, with its beauty and strange allure, felt like the key to understanding Zarathia. He raised his hand, intending only to graze the cool stone, but Lyra, sensing his intent, grabbed his wrist. "Don't!" she shouted, but it was too late. Their fingers brushed the relief together, a moment suspended between curiosity and mistake. A sharp click echoed through the temple, shattering its sacred silence. The stone floor trembled faintly, and from the relief, an ancient hologram flickered to life, displaying swirling symbols and shadowy figures merging in a blaze of fire. A deep voice, speaking in the Zarathian tongue, rumbled from the hologram. Lyra, her face pale, translated with a trembling voice. "The bonding ritual has been activated. Those who touched it must complete 3 trials, or calamity will befall their peoples. Lyra stumbled back, her golden eyes wide with horror and fury. "What have you done, Elias Thorne?" Her voice quivered, laced with betrayal. "I warned you. This isn't a game. This ritual is our ancestors' sacred vow, and now we're bound to complete it." Elias felt the blood drain from his face, his hand still shaking where it had grazed the relief. The weight of his mistake hit him hard. His curiosity had violated a revered tradition, thrusting them both into danger. I didn't know it was that serious," he stammered, but Lyra's icy glare silenced him. "I'll make it right. Tell me what to do." Lyra took a deep breath, struggling to rein in her anger. "We must face 3 trials, but I won't say more until we leave this place. You need to learn to respect our culture, Elias. One more mistake, and it won't just be you who pays. Your entire people will." She turned sharply, striding toward the exit. "Follow me," she said, her voice cold but unsteady. "We don't have time." They stepped out of the temple into the searing red desert, the twin suns blazing overhead. Wind whipped fine sand against their faces, as if Zarathia itself were punishing Elias's recklessness. Lyra led the way, her gaze fixed ahead, her shoulders tense with suppressed reproach. Elias wanted to apologize again, but the memory of her earlier look, as if he'd defiled something sacred, kept him silent. He touched his keepsake necklace, seeking comfort, and followed her across the curving dunes. In the distance, a crowd of Zarathian warriors had gathered, their deep drum beats echoing like the planet's heartbeat. Lyra paused, pointing to a vast crater ring by glossy black stone steps. "The warriors' arena," she said, her voice low. "The trial of strength begins there. If you want to make amends, Elias Thorne, prove you're worthy." She glanced at him, her sharp gaze softening slightly, but still piercing. "Don't let me down." Elias nodded, feeling the heat from the ground seep through his boots. The crowd's cheers grew louder as they approached the arena, and he knew this was more than a trial. It was his chance to regain Lyra's trust and Zarathia's respect. The warriors' arena lay at the heart of Zarathia's crimson desert, a massive crater ring by glossy black stone steps where hundreds of Zarathian warriors had gathered. Elias Thorne stood in the center, sweat trickling down his forehead, his black diplomatic suit clinging to his toned frame, the lightweight armor beneath quivering with each movement. Across from him stood Lyra, the Zarathian warrior with shimmering pale purple skin, tightly braided silver hair, and golden eyes sharp with alertness. The crowd was silent, the only sounds the whistling whined through the stone gaps and the heat rising from the ground. High Counselor Vexa, perched on a raised platform, spoke with a resonant voice. "The trial of strength begins. Those who triggered the bonding ritual must face Zargoth, the beast of the fire abyss. Only by defeating it together will you be deemed worthy." Elias glanced at Lyra, noting the tension in her grip on the curved sword forged from native metal. He had no weapon but a dagger from his spacecraft and his survival instincts. Suddenly, the ground shook. From a distant stone gate, Zargoth emerged. A colossal beast over 3 meters tall, its body covered in glossy black scales like cooled lava. Its fiery red eyes glowed like furnaces, jagged teeth glinting behind a torn, leathery maw. From muscular arms, each wielding long, curved claws, scraped the ground, leaving scorched trails. Its roar vibrated the air, carrying the stench of sulfur and old blood. Elias's heart pounded, but he stood firm, recalling past brushes with danger on alien worlds. Lyra shouted, "Watch out! Zargoth is not just strong, it's fast." She charged, swinging her sword at the beast's leg, but the blade left only a shallow scratch. Zargoth roared in fury, one arm slashing down, nearly tearing into Lyra's shoulder. She rolled aside, and Elias realized she was drawing its attention to give him an opening. He darted behind the creature, searching for a weakness, but Zargoth seemed invulnerable, each step cracking the earth. The crowd began chanting, their rhythmic cries echoing ancient traditions, as if cheering not just for victory, but for sacrifice. Elias understood that Zarathian culture revered courage, but failure meant death. He yelled, "Lyra, lure it to the arena's edge." Lyra nodded, stabbing repeatedly to enrage the beast, guiding it toward a jagged stone wall. But Zargoth suddenly veered, its red eyes locking onto Lyra. It lunged, claws raised, and in a heart-stopping moment, Lyra tripped on a broken stone. Elias saw her fall, her silver hair spilling loose, her sword flying from her grasp. Without thinking, he sprinted forward, leaping onto the beast's back and plunging his dagger deep into a gap between its neck scales. Zargoth howled in pain, thrashing wildly, but Elias clung on, twisting the blade as thick black blood sprayed. Lyra scrambled to her feet, her eyes flashing with shock as she saw Elias atop the beast. She grabbed her sword and charged, slicing precisely through a tendon in Zargotha's hind leg. The creature collapsed, and Elias jumped clear, pulling Lyra away from its final claw swipe. Together, they delivered the killing blows, and Zargoth fell, its roar fading into the red dust. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Elias's gaze was fixed on Lyra, their breaths heavy. Beast blood stained her armor, but her golden eyes no longer held their earlier coldness. A new spark flickered, respect, and perhaps something deeper. "You saved me," she said softly, her gaze searching. "Why risk your life for me? I've doubted you from the start." Elias, still gripping his dagger, gave a weary smile. "Because actions speak louder than words. And right now, I think we need to start trusting each other if we're going to survive." He said no more, but his resolute, sincere eyes made Lyra pause. She turned away, hiding a faint smile, yet inside, a seed of emotion took root, a re-evaluation of the human she'd once deemed reckless. High Counselor Vexa descended, raising a hand for silence. "You have passed the trial of strength, but the journey is not over. Rest now, for the next trial will test your minds." Elias Thorne entered the Hall of Knowledge, his heart still racing from the victory over Zargoth. Lyra walked beside him, her sword sheathed, but her golden eyes gleamed with caution. The vast stone chamber was lined with ancient symbols carved into the walls, and at its center stood a round stone table holding shimmering puzzle pieces, as if infused with the spirits of Zarathian ancestors. High Counselor Vexa stood at the far end, her piercing gaze fixed on them. "The trial of wisdom requires you to solve our ancestors' puzzle," she declared. "Arrange the pieces to tell the story of how Zarathia was saved from darkness. Time waits for no one." Elias studied the pile of pieces, each etched with an image, a warrior, a flame, a storm. Pressure weighed on him, not just from the task, but from Lyra's gaze, as if she were gauging whether he could be trusted after his mistake at the temple. "I don't know your culture," he admitted, his voice low but sincere. "But I want to learn. Lead the way." Lyra hesitated, her lips pressed tight. The sting of his earlier offense lingered, but his act of saving her in the arena had stirred something in her. "Fine," she said, her tone softer. "But this isn't a game, Elias. Each piece is part of our history." She picked up a piece carved with a flame, her fingers brushing it gently, as if it were sacred. "This is the eternal flame, the source of life. It goes at the center." Elias nodded, selecting a piece depicting a sword-wielding warrior. He placed it beside the flame, but Lyra shook her head. "No, the warrior comes later when darkness rises." She set a storm-carved piece in place, her eyes focused, though Elias noticed her hand tremble slightly. "Darkness was our ancestors' greatest fear," she whispered. "I was afraid of it too, as a child." Elias looked at her, surprised by her rare vulnerability. He wanted to ask more, but instead chose a piece etched with the sun, placing it next to the storm. "The sun drives away darkness, right?" he asked gently. Lyra nodded, a fleeting smile crossing her face, and they began working together, placing each piece with care. Elias shared a story of being lost on an icy planet, surviving only by his wits. "I'm not a fighter like you," he said, grinning self-deprecatingly. "But I don't give up." Lyra glanced at him, her gaze softening. "You don't need to fight. You saved me. That's enough." Her words were earnest, but she quickly looked away as if shy about revealing her feelings. They pressed on, but time slipped away, and the puzzle remained incomplete. Elias spotted a piece showing two warriors clasping hands, reminiscent of the temple relief. He hesitated, recalling his past mistake, but Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, light yet firm. "Together," she said. They set the final piece, and the stone table glowed, symbols spinning to recount the tale of unity saving Zerathia. A hidden door creaked open, revealing a chamber of artifacts. Vexa nodded, her voice deep. "You have passed the trial of wisdom. Rest now, for the final trial will test your hearts." Elias and Lyra stepped out, shoulder to shoulder. He felt a new bond, forged not just by victory, but by shared moments. Lyra glanced at him, her voice soft. "You're not what I expected, Elias Thorne." She turned away, but the small smile on her lips spoke volumes. Elias Thorne and Lyra stood before the inner sanctum, a small stone chamber bathed in the soft glow of candles. The air was thick with the sweet, intoxicating scent of oil distilled from rare Zerathian flowers, making Elias's heart beat faster. The high priestess, her eyes deep with wisdom, handed them the chalice of unity, filled with a shimmering liquid. "Drink," she said, her voice low, like a prayer. The ritual of bonding demands two souls become one, bound by absolute trust. Only then will the rite be complete. Elias looked at Lyra, her pale purple skin glowing under the candlelight, her silver hair loose, a stark contrast to her usual warrior's braid. Her golden eyes met his, steady yet tinged with hesitation. He took the first sip, the warm liquid spreading through him, igniting his senses as if awakening every nerve. Lyra drank next, her lips touching the chalice, and as she looked up, a single droplet lingered on her lip, glistening. Elias's breath caught, a wave of heat rushing down his spine. The priestess gestured, and they stepped to the chamber's center, where a circle of fire symbols was carved into the floor. "Let body and soul guide you," she said, then left, leaving them in private. Lyra stood close, so close Elias could feel her warmth. "This is more than a ritual," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "It's a vow. Are you ready?" Elias nodded, his hand brushing the keepsake necklace, but this time he removed it, placing it on the stone table as if shedding his past. "I trust you, Lyra," he said, his voice low but firm. "Lead me." Lyra inhaled deeply, her hand grazing his arm, fingers trailing over the fabric, leaving a burning trace. That small touch charged the air between them, like a spark waiting to ignite. They began the ritual, a slow dance to an ancient melody that seemed to rise from unseen musicians. Their steps synced, hands entwined, each touch sending a jolt through Elias. Lyra drew him closer, her breath warm against his neck, sweet as the scented oil. "Don't think," she murmured, her lips brushing near his ear. "Feel." He tightened his grip on her hand, their palms searing, and they spun, their bodies so close no space remained. The flickering candlelight cast their shadows as one on the stone walls. Lyra looked up, her eyes locked on his, and in that moment, all barriers dissolved. They stopped dancing, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. Elias felt her heartbeat, rapid and strong, matching his own. His hand slid to her shoulder, slow, seeking permission, and she responded by pulling him into a fierce embrace, her soft yet powerful form pressed against him. Time seemed to pause. They sank to the stone floor, candlelight wavering, in a wordless weave of breaths, touches, and silent gestures, their souls merged. Like two streams of molten lava meeting, they fused, intense yet tender, creating an everlasting flow. As the candles dimmed, only their steady breathing remained, a profound understanding replacing words. Elias Thorne and Lyra emerged from the inner sanctum, their hands still clasped, the flickering candles behind them bearing witness to their union. High Counselor Vexa and the Queen of Zerathia A tall woman with shimmering silver hair and eyes sharp as a blade awaited them in the council hall. The gathered warriors stood silent, the air thick with anticipation. Elias felt Lyra's heartbeat through her palm, strong yet faintly trembling, and he gave her hand a gentle squeeze to reassure her. The queen spoke, her voice resounding. Elias Thorne, you have overcome 3 trials, proving your courage, wisdom, and harmony with our people. You have atoned for your initial mistake, and we recognize you as one with Zerathia. Her gaze softened as she turned to Lyra. And you, Lyra, have guided this outsider, safeguarding our legacy. Together, you have completed the ritual of bonding. Lyra bowed, her silver hair falling forward to hide a subtle smile. Elias responded, his voice steady and deep. I am honored, Your Majesty. I came for peace and leave with a profound understanding. The crowd erupted in cheers, deep drum beats echoing to mark their approval. Vexa stepped forward, presenting Elias with a parchment scroll etched with a flame symbol. The trade treaty between Earth and Zerathia. Peace is secured, she said, her eyes glinting with respect. But the queen raised a hand, signaling silence. The ritual of bonding binds 2 souls. Lyra, do you choose to stay or go with this man? Elias looked at Lyra, his heart tightening, hardly daring to hope. Lyra lifted her gaze, her golden eyes locking onto his. I choose to go with Elias, she said, her voice firm yet tinged with vulnerability. Not just for the ritual, but because I believe in what we can build together. Elias felt his chest lighten, a rare smile spreading across his face. They departed Zerathia aboard an Earth Federation spacecraft, standing side by side at the observation window. The fiery red planet faded into a distant speck against the cosmic void. Lyra stood close, her shoulder brushing his, her familiar warmth lingering from the ritual. What's next, Ambassador? She asked, her tone light, but her eyes sparkling with a playful challenge. Elias turned to her, his fingers grazing her arm, feeling the smooth, pale purple skin. Exploring the universe with you, he whispered, his voice low and meaningful. Lyra smiled, drawing him into a private cabin, the door sliding shut behind them. In the cramped space, lit by the faint glow of control panels, they found each other again. Breaths intertwined, bodies pressed close, they collided like twin stars, sparking a silent, fierce, yet tender explosion. As the moment settled, they lay together, hands entwined, ready to face their new journey, side by side.